Hello, 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 and welcome back to the RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars Season 10, Episode 3 recap here on RHAP We Know Reality TV. I'm one of your hosts, Beth Dixon, and I'm so excited to talk about the end of Bracket 1. But thankfully, I'm here with Aman Adwin as per usual, and we are going to be breaking down everything from the Makeover Challenge itself, the additional aspect of the Makeover Challenge, which was a performance challenge, and all the drama and conflama that goes with moving on into the next bracket, plus the twist that we learned as well going forward. So we have a lot to break down. Aman, how are you doing? And what were your thoughts overall on this episode?
I'm good. I was very much looking forward to this episode because I was dying to know how this was going to pan out, who was
Yep.
eventually going to make it. Because you know, it really could have gone any kind of way. I think that we sort of maybe could have made our own predictions as to which ones we thought most definitely weren't gonna make it. But it still felt like there was a lot of potential for quite a few of these queens to make it through. So I was very excited to see how this was going to turn out.
Yeah, I think at the very beginning, we get a good sense that, like, oh, this is going to be closer than we thought it would be. And then it gets all tied up again on the stage, and we have
Mhm.
a very interesting moment of knowing who's going to move forward. It was kind of dicey there for a second to know who was, and I definitely had some feelings about who I'd be excited about moving forward and who I would be excited to not see move
Mhm.
forward. Um, but then we also have an additional twist that we'll get into that kind of throws a wrench into all of that in a way. So we will kind of break down the episode a little bit by talking not just about the challenge. We'll go through each individual pair. This was a makeover challenge. We did have 6 different university women's basketball players on the show here to tell everybody how to be a competitor and how to shoot their shot.
Yes.
So it was kind of cool, Aman. I liked that this element of a makeover challenge wasn't just like put together a little kitschy dance. It was really a whole other challenge involved with this one. And I think that was I hope the other brackets, when they get to the third challenge, really do some kind of combination of 2 different things. Maybe it's a construction challenge with an improv challenge or something like that, right? I could see there being some interesting aspects of how this is going to go moving forward with the other brackets. And as we've seen with the very beginning snippets of what next week's bracket will look like, they are not doing the same kind of challenges that this bracket is. So anything is possible. But what did you think about the idea of combining both, like record your lyrics, choreograph yourself, and your makeover partner has to do that? And it's a makeover challenge with family resemblance.
Yeah, I liked it because it really just tested how well these queens know themselves and how well they can sort of like disseminate their own drag and make it easily digestible for the next person to sort of fall into. And it just yeah, I think the makeup challenges are always fun because you get to see just how distinct the queen actually is. Because
Yeah.
there are some queens that either it's they just don't know how to replicate themselves, or they can kind of find out that you don't necessarily have something that stands out about you in particular, and so maybe that's why there isn't really much of a family resemblance because you resemble everybody. So
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
No, I think that's a
I
good
like
way to
that.
put that. And I think too that it's sometimes it's not even like, is there something about yourself that you can put a unique spin on? It's also, I feel like, having some awareness of what do the judges look for with family resemblance? And
Mhm.
and we've had plenty of seasons to know what the judges are looking for. And so I do think that there were some queens who did really well with family resemblance, but there were other parts of their performance maybe that was lacking, and there were queens that did really well in performance, but maybe the family resemblance was lacking. And I do
Mhm.
think that our top 2 ended up doing a pretty good job of kind of replicating both of those aspects. But I also thought it was kind of interesting that they made them within 3 weeks do 2 write your own lyrics and perform something challenges, especially given that it's such a short time with these queens. Do you think that like the producers had like any sense of like, these are the people in each bracket. How can we play it up to like the best performance aspects to get drama out of them? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe it's just like I don't know. Maybe I mean, because one thing I'm like, maybe it's easier production wise to have the challenge be something that's geared more towards the queen setting it up themselves, writing their own thing, as opposed to having to give them materials and stuff for like a sewing challenge. But then I obviously I doubt that they're going to have the exact same challenge schedule for the next two brackets. So it sort of makes me wonder, are we going to have something similar where it might be something where you might get sort of like two sort of like design challenges in the next bracket or something, or are they kind of saving those types of challenges for the final nine? I don't know. Maybe it's two acting challenges next time around. I don't know. We'll see.
Because I'm gonna be 1,000% with you. I think that they look at the queens that they've put in the different brackets and they thought like, okay, what is going to create the most interesting parts of this? So if we look at this bracket, we had people who we knew would be really good at like music, performing, choreography, people like Aja, for example, and Bosco. But then we also have people who are good at serving face and really good at acting and those aspects, like the Dejas of the world. And then Olivia's pretty to look at, like and has a musical background and is part of, the Mugler House and all the with Aja. And I think that there's just like different aspects about it. When we look at the next bracket, we have people who I think are stronger in the design category. And we know that we're starting with a design challenge next time, which is interesting. So you look at people like Georges, who won a design challenge in season 14, which in my opinion and many others was a very big question mark and a lack of judgment, in my opinion, from the judges. But we have Mistress Isabel Brooks, and you have, legendary queens like Tina Burner are coming back and such. So I could see them being like, okay, and then the second episode maybe is a roast or something, right? You're going to have people who know how to read, like Nicole Page Brooks and Mistress and, Tina and all those people. And then I'm going to, if bracket 3 starts off with an acting challenge, we know it's just going to be rigged for Ginger at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at that point, it is what it is. Pack it up, sis. Everybody else just go home.
So I kind of hope, since we know that they're not going to do the same kind of challenges from the get-go for the 3 brackets, we know then that it's not going to be like looking at the same criteria for all of the contestants moving into the semifinals. And at first I was like, I don't know if I like that, because I don't know, I'm from the world of academia, and I'm like, no, in order to really know if they're moving on the best, they should have similar, backgrounds. It's like the control group of a whatever. But I actually kind of like that they're throwing anything and everything at the queens. And so I hope the 3 brackets have 3 very different kinds of challenges that they have to overcome to go into the semifinals.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because you do want them to sort of like have some kind of like level playing field that makes it feel fair across the board. But obviously we have to worry about what the audience is going to think, with these identical ass challenges. So switching it up maybe, but I kind of like the idea of like them being split up into separate factions or houses, as it were. Like this is the reading the house down Boots house. This is the comedy house. This is the design house. This is the acting challenge house. Because then it really does show you just like how well-rounded all of the queens are when you split them up into categories. So, I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I wouldn't mind if that's sort of like what they're going for sure.
Yeah. So with this challenge, Aman, they start off with a mini challenge. First of all, they all get called into, as Bosco says, they're blindfolded, driven across state lines, and brought into a black box that is full of basketball. And I loved her like, ew, sports. I like fucking hate sports kind of moment. I thought that was funny. And then you have a wonderful line from Aja about they have to shoot baskets, and whoever shoots makes the most amount of baskets. I think it was like in 30 seconds.
Yeah, something like that. Like a minute.
A minute or 30 seconds or something. Then whoever has the most will be able to match up which one of the college basketball players will go to which queen. And I thought it was hilarious that Aja's like, basketball and acrylics.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yeah, that'd be hard. But Aja kind of killed it. She actually did pretty well. I think she had like 6 baskets or something.
Yeah.
But Irene ends up winning with 8. Bosco had 7, almost cutting it close there. Deja was there. Olivia, I think, had 3. I don't know. So it was an entertaining challenge. I love the slow-mo of RuPaul going up because RuPaul is like 10 feet tall. And like, I
Mhm.
knew that basket was going to be, I was like, oh, this is going to be great when he slam dunks it. And I thought it was funny and even better that he completely brick goes up for the layup, misses it, and then just runs away like he's scared from the ball. I just loved all of that. I thought it was campy and fun.
Yeah, I was wondering how tall all these queens were because I was like, is it the height that's giving some people a bit of an advantage to be able to make all of these baskets? There's a little bit of riggery going on, but I wasn't really able to decipher just how tall everybody is.
I honestly feel like if you're doing like free throws, yes, height matters, but it's more about the arc and such that you
Accuracy.
need.
Yeah.
And you could tell, like, ever since I was little, playing Super Nintendo and would play basketball games, and I'd get on fire when I would make multiple baskets in a row. I was like, that is a real thing, because you saw Deja not do anything and then all of a sudden made like 4 in a row at the very, very end. And most queens were making them back to back to back to back. Now, whether that's editing or not, I don't know, but it was pretty impressive, I thought. I don't think I would have done as well as most of the queens did. And I played basketball for a few years, and I don't think that that's the sport for me. But Irene does win, and she ends up being able to match up all of the queens with their new drag daughters, who are all college basketball
Mhm.
players. I loved this group of women. I thought that they were all really in it. They wanted, they're competitors. They kind of made that very clear that, we're matching you up with people who are also very competitive. But I love that there were themes from these women talking about not just like, what are the things that they face as challenges being in a woman's sport that mostly men get glory and credit and everything for. But we also got wonderful commentary on femininity and masculinity within sports, and everybody having their own individual expression of gender. We had wonderful moments about saying like, yeah, we're pushing each other as competitors, but we're also very close. It's a very small circle of people. We know each other at the different schools, and we're sisters off the court, but when the court is happening, if you're on my team, I want to be playing over you. So yeah, we're going to push each other in challenges and practice to make sure that we're getting a better spot on the team. But that doesn't mean that we're disliking each other. And I thought that was very interesting commentary, especially for like the Olivia Aja, I don't know, quote unquote drama. Although I felt like, Aman, this felt so forced, that drama, this episode. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it felt like they were one of the production assistants definitely asked them to like bring it up with the other person for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like the fact that we are getting these college basketball players. I feel like women's basketball has been hitting a bit of a zenith over the past couple of years or so. I think that it's been in the conversation a lot. With some of these, with Angel Reese and Caitlin, I forget Caitlin's
Clark.
last name. Caitlin Clark. It's just been nice to see that, this doesn't necessarily have to be a trend. This can just be normalized more because we all know that the WNBA exists. But it doesn't get as many eyes on it. It doesn't get as many people that are knowing that there are as many household names. And yeah, why not? It's the same damn game.
Well, let me tell you, Aman, as somebody who lives in Brooklyn and lives literally an exact mile down, like one street up, is Barclays, where in the WNBA, the New York Liberty, the women's basketball team plays, and the Brooklyn Nets play there, and the Knicks. Let me just say, as somebody who knows that the Knicks and the Nets suck, the Liberty won the WNBA title last year. Like, we should
Mm-hmm.
be supporting them, right? But
Yes.
I agree with you. I love that we're getting visibility for women's sports because this is an area that has just been completely overlooked for years. And when we think about the women's teams in America in particular that end up getting more glory, it's typically every 4 years at the Olympics, it's the women's gymnastics team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. There's going to be individual swimmers at the Olympics. It's normally centered around the Olympics. Then it's
Mm-hmm.
women's soccer got their glory day a little bit, and now women's basketball. And I think that we're definitely in a great time to be demanding visibility, sponsorships, and an equal cut of the pie, some equity in here. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that Drag Race as a platform that uses gender expression, specifically more feminine gender expression, as a means of entertainment to the masses, is able to then say, let's uplift these women and give them a platform to share their stories, especially as young stars in the sport who might be moving forward professionally. All of those, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe every single one of them were Division I basketball players, and that is nothing to sneeze at.
I
So
know. I know.
props to RuPaul's Drag Race producers for having them. And props to, we have young women, Gen Z women who are out here ready to be feminine, queer, and fun, whether they're queer or not, we don't know, and that's fine. But like be on
Mm-hmm.
RuPaul's Drag Race and be so fully in it in a way that like even some of the other contestants who were excited to be on couldn't tap into that like sassy energy the way that I feel like Gen Z women are more than happy to do.
Yeah, and it's also cool that it sort of like circulates around this conversation between like or surrounding like the anti-trans rhetoric that we've been hearing a
Mm,
lot about, because there are a lot of women that might have a few more masculine presenting characteristics if they are athletes, given that their build might be a little bit more buff than the average woman, or just like their stature might be a little bit more masculine than the average woman, and just like how transphobia can really affect us all just because they're built a certain way, they're perceived a certain way, or they're not supposed to be as feminine or appear as feminine or look weird and feminine in clothes. Like it's all the same like bullshit that like doesn't really mean much. And anybody can be anything, and we're all born naked and the rest is drag. So I just felt like examining it through the lens of women, like biological women that might not be exactly feminine all the time, and then making them hyper feminine is just such an interesting way to like once again remind people that like all of these phobias and isms, they affect us all, not just the people you feel like you're punching down on. It affects you too.
absolutely. Transphobia is inherently going to be misogynistic and racist and, any of the isists that you can be and vice versa. And so I think that's just an excellent point to bring up. Before we bringing up trans rights and visibility, I want to just take a break for talking about All Stars 10 and have just kind of a moment to give Jiggly Caliente some recognition and her followers and supporters, family and friends, some well-deserved love and respect. We were remiss last week to not bring up the fact that Jiggly passed away on April 27th after some health complications. We had learned in the media a couple of days before that she was having a pretty bad infection and had to have her leg amputated, and then unfortunately did not survive a couple days later. I think it's been broadcasted. Her funeral was this past weekend, and there's lots of clips of various different drag queens and queer icons who gave different eulogies for her. And for someone who was such an important figure in New York City drag, well before Drag Race ever aired and her time on Drag Race, for someone who was so visibly and importantly a trans woman, and her transition was very public, and coming back on All Stars herself and competing as a trans woman was so important. And then also being a judge on Drag Race Philippines, and the representation she had as a drag queen, a trans woman, a Filipino, all of those different communities were well represented in her. Somebody who just exuded confidence, uniqueness, a sense of humor, a desire to get that check, and the most supportive friend from what I can see that anybody could ever ask for. And I just wanted to make sure that we just took a moment to, say that we're really sorry to hear of her passing, and hope that her legacy continues to live on. There is a fundraiser for her family if you are interested, and I'm going to pull it up in a second because I forgot to pull it up in advance. But in case you have anything to add, Aman, while I'm doing that, I'll just turn it over to you.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough year for the drag race community. This is yet another loss that we're having to learn about and deal with, and it definitely is sad because a lot of the queens have been sharing so many just positive stories about how supportive Jiggly was and just how much of a bright spirit she was. And you know, I it was so sudden. It's always so hard when things just happen seemingly out of nowhere because obviously we're not in her inner circle. We don't get constant updates about her life, but I would imagine for a lot of us, we had no idea. So yeah, my heart goes out to everyone that was close with her, all of the fans that have been having a hard time with it because it's so important to have people that you can constantly look to, not just for entertainment, but just for like visibility's sake, and just to have someone that you can always go back to and be like, yeah, you know what? I like that she's there. She's out here doing her thing. I love to follow these queens and their art, and you can always just feel absence when a light goes out. And so my heart goes out to everyone involved for sure.
And a special shout out to a friend of RHAP, former Drag Race contestant and a podcast co-host for the Dragula a couple seasons, Jeremy Carey, who this is his best friend in the whole world. And I know that he's suffering just like anybody else would when your best friend leaves far, far, far before they should have. And I just wanted to give a special shout out to Jeremy and let him know that we're thinking of him. Yes. Jiggly Caliente's GoFundMe is called Honoring the Life and Legacy of Jiggly Caliente Arabejo. And it is, again, on GoFundMe. We're going to put the link in the description. So if anybody would like to donate to it, you can do it there. But thank you for giving us the opportunity just to say a quick aside about that. Let us now turn to the challenge itself. I'm going to bring up each of the queens, and why don't we, Aman, talk about each of the queens and how they did with the challenge, both in terms of family resemblance, but also how they did for the performance aspect, where they had to write and perform their own lyrics. So, first up, we have Deja Sky, and you know what? I forgot to bring up all of the names, but I believe this was like Sophia something. But all I could see when I look at her is Acacia Forgot from season 17. I have been literally, if you watch this episode over, like I watched it twice this weekend, I literally, when she's in drag, to me, she looks exactly like the way she acts was so Acacia Forgot in the lip sync Lollapalooza of this past season. I was just like, oh my God, she actually really does look like that. But what were your thoughts on Deja and Sophia?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought that the sort of like pastel colors complemented each other well. I mean, I don't really follow Deja Sky. There's no like shade to Deja Sky. There's a lot of other queens that I don't really follow closely. And so I've felt a lot of like, oh, like what does Deja Sky look like to me? And I think that she did a good job here in like maintaining like a look for the both of them. I see the theme, I see the resemblance. The paint, not as much. I don't think it's as striking. I think I did notice it in the eye makeup the most. But I mean, I thought that the outfit choices were fine. I thought that I feel like I always like sort of like expect, because we've seen like some really, 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 really good makeover challenges, and sometimes I feel like my brain is always on that level. But like, not every makeover challenge has to be like this extravagant like garment. It can still
Right.
be something that is, it gets the point across and it's understated, but it's like, it's good and it achieves the mission.
Think about like Katya in All Stars 2 with her mom, right? Like there was nothing that was inherently really flashy about those outfits, but it's the
Hmm.
story they tell, it's the dynamic, it's those kind of things. And I agree with you. I felt like, quite frankly, the two of them had the best cohesion with the performance in particular. And I felt like she, as the daughter, was like the most into it, even though there were quite a few of them that were really, really into this. I just felt like she was really feeling her puss, and I loved that aspect of this.
Hmm.
I gotta be honest, I really hate these outfits, like, a lot, and I love Deja so much, and I wanted so badly to agree with Kate Beckinsale and be like, "You're right, there are normally sisters who look very different and have different aesthetics," but, like, I agree with Michelle. These look like two best friends who were going out. The mesh is hard to read from afar, especially on Deja. So it just makes it look like it's two very different outfits. I don't really like the bright
Yeah.
yellow shoe with the lime green dress. I wish they had the same color hair or something. But I also appreciate what Deja's trying to go for. I thought Sophia looks lovely, gal. Like I love that beat on her. But I agree with you. I think what Deja did very smartly was like, hey, I'm gonna make you look incredible. And I want it known for the record that if I had any of these queens at my disposal for a makeover, I would have been asking Deja Sky to do my makeup because she's like absolutely, out of the six of these people, my favorite mug for sure. And I would love to see if she could translate it in some way on my canvas of my face. But I did feel like look wise, this was probably my least favorite look of all of the queens.
Yeah. Now that I'm remembering what some of the other looks look like, I'm thinking that I might be able to agree with you, but I'll hold off until we see them all.
All right. Well, I'll come back to you and be like, okay, thoughts on Deja now. Let's move on. The second pair that came out was Irene and Estelle, the drag queen.
Hmm.
Or not the alien, I'm sorry, the drag queen. What did I just all of a sudden entering Bob into the conversation? And they come out and had a very well choreographed runway in addition to the actual performance. I genuinely thought this is the most nailed it family resemblance that you could do. And I think Irene is really, really smart. And I loved how she explained going into this challenge. I already have somebody who is likes to be a little bit more feminine and glam. And I like her bone structure, her cheekbones and such. And I feel like it would be easy to make her look pretty. I would like to elevate that. I want her to enter my real family as somebody who markets themselves as the alien. And I want to do high fashion alien clown mannequin kind of drag. And
Yeah.
I thought that was so smart. This is how you put your whole aesthetic, not just on somebody's face, but make complementary outfits. They're not exactly the same. I don't know if I would go as far. Michelle's like, but you're sisters, but you're not twins. And I'm like, you could very well be twins in this. And
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
totally fine. I I thought this was great. And I thought
And they're
that
not supposed. Do they have to be twins? It's family
no,
resemblance.
right. I just thought I think Irene is just smart. And clearly they all know that they're going to do some kind of makeover challenge because a whole bunch of them just pulled out these complimentary outfits and such like ready to go. So I loved this. I think that was so interesting, campy, different from what anything that we've ever seen on the runway, but still very much within the wheelhouse of Irene. And it was easy because there was a vision and a point of view. I think it was easier for Estelle to be able to like follow her footsteps and be
Yeah.
a drag queen on stage.
The one thing that I could like totally notice the fact that Estelle sort of like at the beginning was a little hesitant about it, because like of course like if I'm coming to Drag Race, I'm probably going to come in with the mindset of like, oh, I'm going to get super done up, I'm going to be high glam, I'm going to give puss, I'm going to give that, and then to be like, yeah, you're going to be a clown, you're like, oh,
You're like,
okay.
okay.
But I think it was executed well. I thought that there was still glam here. There was still like high art here. And I, obviously, whenever there are queens that have signature makeup that is very heavy or dramatic, like a white face, like Irene or Gottmik, or just recently Ariete with the nose.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I always find like, it's not like cheating because that's the look, but it's like you've got it in the bag for resemblance, because all you got to do is just paint like that specifically,
Yep.
and you gonna look like you're gonna look like. So I think it's smart, because not to say that Irene is always in a white face, she's not, but she does do it often enough for it to be something that you associate with Irene. So I thought that was a smart choice. And the looks are very well put together, very well coordinated, and they don't look cheap. They look fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think that just everything about this was great. I thought that their verses and their performance were excellent as well. And Irene going 3 for 3 in terms of maxi challenges feels very correct for the fantasy I created as soon as she was eliminated in the first episode of season 15. So I'm very excited to see her move on to the semifinals. Let's talk about Bosco. And you know what? I have been trying for the past like 5 minutes to find the drag names of all of them. And I knew a couple of them. I cannot remember the drag name for
I know, girl.
Lauren.
Unless it's freaking from season 10, where I remember a show change with Tyler Oakley.
That was amazing.
I remember nothing.
But I do know that this is Lauren out of drag with Bosco. And Bosco, she's going to give, pretty girl privilege was pretty much like what they went for as their theme. And so coming out and having, I think that Lauren says in her verse that she's 6'7". And so being able to be like, okay, let's talk about a model of like the most supreme variety, right? So you knew that Bosco was going to be like, let's be very feminine, let's be very high fashion. And I loved that she had just such inspired looks. And I loved Daphne, what's her last name, with the two-toned hair. Oh my goodness. But regardless, I just lots of references to high fashion houses, designers, and icons. And I just thought that Lauren looked beautiful. You could tell that they're in the same house, even like in the same family, even though their outfits really are not the same. And it's the details of the paint, and it's how they hold themselves, and it's the fact that they have a very similar theme. There's appliques on both outfits. There's similar sheen to the fabric. And I thought that they nailed it. And I loved seeing Lauren just like absolutely own every part of her performance as somebody who especially is, let's be honest, I think tall women in particular probably face quite a bit, especially for someone like her who is obviously an athlete and clearly has a deeper voice and those kind of things too. It was really wonderful to see her like, yeah, I like being feminine and putting makeup on, and having her just like really feel herself in every aspect of the runway, and the performance was just a lot of fun.
I always wonder about those women that are like super tall. Like, how many of them are pushed into doing sports when they really don't want to?
Oh yeah. It's like, here you go. You're tall. Okay. You're going to play basketball or volleyball. It's like, oh, you have like the perfect broad shoulders. You're going to be a swimmer.
They might not even be that great at this point, but because their height is so up there, it's just automatically, it's good enough. Like that must suck to feel pigeonholed automatically into doing that stuff. But I agree with you largely. I thought that this, I thought mostly I was like, oh, I definitely see Bosco in that face. That's all I see is in that face is Bosco. And sort of like this haughty type of, better than thou, but in a cheeky way type vibe. was very much seen throughout the presentation of the runway. I'm not the biggest fan of the looks.
Mhm.
It's a little drapey for me. It's a little curtain, if it were.
I will say, I think that Bosco's outfit ages her. I think that Lauren
Yeah.
looks her age, looks like she's, walking a runway, but there's just like Bosco, I don't know if she did this intentionally or just how it comes out, but Bosco definitely looks like her mother in this. And I know that's the point is that they're supposed to be mother-daughter, but like they say family resemblance. They never say they have to be their drag daughter. They could be
Hmm.
sisters and that kind of thing too. And I do think that, you look at Irene, for example. I think Irene and Estelle were sisters. I don't think they were mother-daughter. This is very, if Cruella had a daughter vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yes, Cruella Bosco, Cruella
Cruella
Bosco.
Bosco.
And
I
she's
love
such
that.
a hoe.
I do think that in terms of their performance, as much as I really love the energy and everything, I do think that they were maybe like third or fourth in my opinion. I think that Deja's their duo was like probably my first favorite in terms of energy and performance.
Yeah,
But they were much stronger in the looks. So I was like, okay. I
yeah,
felt like
it's a
Deja
little
very well
stiff.
could have. Yeah, yeah.
It's a little stiff, and let me just say, Bosco was lucky that she had that damn chocolate that saved her that time because I feel like some of her lip syncs can be a little. She's very sexy, but she can be a little stiff a lot of the time on stage.
Yeah, and I think that's intentional, but not like that there were people. Well, I don't know when she comes up, but when we talk about Phoenix, that's stiff in a different way.
Yeah.
And there's multiple ways to be stiff with her. But the thing with Bosco is that I think that there's an element of being. It's like she's very particular of how and when she uses her body sensually and like
Mhm.
softly, and everything else just feels a little bit more mechanic with her. I do think she's better than she was in season 14 in that regard. But when you compare to the other queens, I felt like she was probably like
Yeah.
fourth on this list, in my opinion.
That feels correct.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Olivia, who was with Nevaeh. And I thought the two of them working together was a lot of fun. I really loved seeing them really act like, sisters. And I loved the involvement that Nevaeh had with like, well, what if we did this? And providing
Mhm.
and the way that Olivia just encouraged her so much, I thought was really beautiful. But what are your thoughts about their performance and the looks and everything else?
Yeah, she seemed to have the partner that was like the most in tune with what was going on in the room and wanted to see what other teams were doing to see if they had an edge over there. She was very confident. She was like, I mean, as far as, resemblance goes, we the ones that look the most alike as we already are. So I think
You're
we
gonna be
gonna be
painting your
fine.
own face twice, is what Nevaeh
Right,
says.
right. So lock in, girl. So I enjoyed that aspect of it, and I thought that their syncopation with their performance was fun. And I just generally appreciate looks like this, like these sort of like 60s/70s mod type deal. It's very fun. Um, art Siri, I'm not talking to you. Hush. Like I don't even know
Seriously,
what
can
I
I be
said.
in your drag house?
um No, but with that being said, as confident as they are, do I see the family resemblance like a whole bunch? Yes, I did. Yes, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm like judging a little bit harshly because they were like so confident going in. But I was like, I don't know if I see signature looks in the face.
Agreed.
So I'm like,
I think that I mean, Olivia has this music background. So the fact that it was a music and celebrating, kind of more classic Black culture, and the hairstyle, and especially applying it to like that 60s mod theme. I think
mhm.
that is kind of the vibe that I get from Olivia. I do think that the paint, like, I feel like the way she painted her eyebrows and her eye makeup is what is throwing me off because Olivia does not paint her eyebrows at that angle. So it just looks inherently a little bit more like they're friends more than anything else. But I think that that's just being a little too harsh. Also, if I'm
Yeah,
saying that,
I was about to say,
I think they're very much a family resemblance thing. I could see them absolutely being sisters. I just felt like this was very basic.
right, that too.
I thought it was cute. I thought it was basic, and I thought that they were fine, but I wasn't blown away. I thought I was really going to be blown away by them, but the way that they work together. Um, and I felt like Olivia and Deja worked with their partners the best in how to prepare them for the runway and the performance. Like Deja was basically like, I'm going to follow her lead of what she can do and what she feels comfortable with versus trying to throw a whole bunch of choreography at her like most of the other queens did. And Nevaeh had a very involved aspect of like helping to choreograph it. So I felt like in that regard, I expected the comfort of the performance to be a little stronger, but I genuinely, I don't know if nerves maybe took over Nevaeh a little bit, but I felt like Nevaeh was a lot less present on during the performance than I expected her to be. I love that Olivia really went for it, but I generally just kind of felt like it was like, okay, that was good. I kind of felt like they were just behind like the Bosco group. Like,
and I feel like I feel like that's sort of been how Olivia has sort of been this go around a drag race, and some of it might just be related to just the overall structure of this season, right? Like I feel like there's not enough time for us to like it might not it's not enough time for the queens to really be able to settle into themselves, and especially like when it's just added pressure of like getting the call back to All Stars, but then like when you're there, you have to prove yourself that you are worthy of the final cast of this particular season.
Right.
And I feel like that's so much stuff to have to worry about that maybe people don't perform the way that they want to perform because their priorities have shifted now. But with that being said, obviously, even if this were a regular season, you still have the chance of going home first. So you really still should be putting your best foot forward. Not to say that she hasn't, but I just feel like it has sort of been this. Her image of herself isn't necessarily matching up with the way that she's playing the game. I think that she was focused so much on strategy and forming alliances, which I love, don't get me wrong, but like, are you forgetting about the execution of these challenges too? Because I don't think that what you want to give is what you are giving. I mean, we saw it in the first couple episodes with the other performance with The Rock. It was like you say that you're giving Rock Girl, but it's not. It's pretty, and it's not really enough. And so I love that she has this confidence coming into the season with all of the stuff that she's done. With what is it, the House of Glare? I love all of that, but I don't know if it's being executed the way that you want it to. At least not in the way for Drag Race.
I think she has much more confidence, which is great, but I also feel like she's forcing a lot of trying to be assertive in a way that I don't think comes natural to her, and not just in terms of conflict, like, because I felt like last week's quote unquote conflict with Bosco was like very like, I don't even think that Bosco knew that they were really fighting. I think that Bosco thought they were just being shady back and forth, like, like drag queens do. And like, we have this whole confessional about her being like, I am going to stand up for myself in ways I never did in season 14 or 13. And I kind of feel like she's really forcing that. And I don't know if this is like, her feeling like she needs to find her way in that regard. But I kind of feel like while I do think she is confident, I also kind of think there's a little bit of faking it for the camera. And I think that she's still in a period of transition into, the House of Mugler is really helping her to find her voice and find that assertiveness and demand the attention. Because I do think that when it came to season 13, she started off strong and then everybody started overshadowing her. And it really wasn't her not doing well as much as she just didn't stand out and she didn't have the bite to come back at people. And especially with that cast. And so I think that some of this felt a little forced. And that's what I think I've been feeling with her is like that it's not everything's pretty and everything's great. And she has an idea of what she wants to do. But like you said, a lot of it, the time was spent on looking confident for the camera and then also trying to be strategic. And I think she was, whether she'll admit it on camera or not, I think the reason why she wanted to make sure that Deja and Aja both had the same amount of stars that she did, rather than just Aja, was not only, I do think that she wanted to make sure that Melanation Station made it far and had an equal shot, an equitable shot. I genuinely believe that's true. But I think that she was hoping both of them would give her a star so that she'd be the one that moves forward. And I think she was playing that game. And the fact that that didn't happen, I could sense a little bit of anger coming from her in that stage.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if she has anything to say. That said, I do also want to bring up just something really quickly. I read that before filming, and so if we remember, episode 2 was a murder mystery, and the biggest critique she got was that there could have been different ranges of grief that she tried to portray. I did see that her grandfather was murdered right before she came to Drag Race to film. And when the murder mystery improv thing happened, she really struggled with that challenge this was fresh on her mind. She hadn't properly processed it yet. And I think that she felt very much like it was a slap in the face to say that, oh, you're not really portraying grief in different ways. And I think that that really bothered her. I think Aja was the only one who knew about that going into the season, especially into that episode. And so, she has since said like that was something that really bothered her and kind of affected her performance as well. So I just wanted to also provide that context of what I'd seen.
I have thoughts about Melanation Station.
Ooh, tell me.
I understand it. Like, I don't want people to get the wrong idea here when I say this. I understand the point of it, and also obviously use whatever connections you can to the best of your ability. That's a social part of it. I understand it. I don't necessarily know if the framing of making sure that Black or brown girls make it far in Drag Race is going to hold too much water anymore these days. I just like the host of the show is a Black man, which doesn't always necessarily, because not all skin folk are kin folk. Okay. Sometimes people play into these stereotypes or play into the system to the detriment of people that look like them. So I'm not saying that RuPaul is not without critique. He most certainly is.
Oh yeah.
But I think as a whole, I think that Drag Race has been pretty good with representation as it pertains to like the origins of the drag community. Now there definitely have been moments in time throughout the show where it's been a little bit weak. The biggest one that I can think of is the string of winners of the All-Star seasons, where it was 3 white queens, where there were noticeably, especially when you add in like the drama of All-Stars 3. I understand that. And then you want to tackle on the drama of All-Stars 4. Some people were like, why are we doing a double crowning? Why can't it just be one? Like, I understand it. Again, it's not me saying that I don't understand where people are coming from. It's just that I don't necessarily know if, as a whole, Drag Race has not done a good job of showcasing Black and brown people on the show and showcasing them in the winner's circle. I mean, just recently alone, we have had a plethora of queens of color that have won the crown. Okay, we just had back-to-back as far as American season are concerned. We had Angeria win All-Stars 9, and we just had Anya Nerve win season 16. Right? So it's there was like my antennas just kind of went up whenever Olivia was making the point, and it's not just Olivia. I think she was the most vocal for it, because obviously Aja and Deja are going to be, of course, they're going to say yes. Why would they say no? Yeah. But I'm just like, I don't think this is the crusade that you want it to be, right?
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I would just say like, I think in the terms of this bracket, considering how strong Irene and Bosco were doing, it made sense for the 3 of them to want to work together to try to like uplift each other. I don't think that, people need to be feeling necessarily disenfranchised within the franchise in order to want, to uplift each other as, different marginalized identities and
Right.
by skin color or any other kind of, like, if the trans girls had stuck together or whatever like that. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I also kind of look at it and go like, okay, but did we think Phoenix was really going to be an issue? You know what I mean? So I see where you're saying for sure. I don't really have strong opinions one way or another. I kind of just like whenever I see people kind of, especially nowadays with, we need any and all examples on television and of how to uplift each other and come together as communities. And, I never will shy away from seeing that representation, but I also feel like, again, I felt like they were really forcing the storyline more than it probably played a role.
Right. It felt like in this particular season, in this particular time that we are in with Drag Race, I'm like, I don't know if it's not, because I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm saying Aman has said that we are in a completely post-racist society, that we've been cured of the demon of race. That's not what I'm saying. Yep. I'm just saying I think there is a time and a place, and I don't necessarily know if this was the
best example of it.
Right.
When you compare to shows like Big Brother that have a very big difference between how many people of color were traditionally cast over many of the seasons, how many people are, women of color, are people of color in general. Like, yes, that makes complete and total sense, but like what you're saying, Drag Race is a little different in that front.
Right.
So sorry. Let us move on to Phoenix. I'm going to have you start because I need to go get a glass of water. I have a tickle in my throat, so I'll be right back.
Phoenix. Okay, so Phoenix I was like really interested about because, obviously we know the position that she was in coming into this episode. She sort of like had to win if she wanted a shot at making it to the end. The only other way that you probably could have made it is if like all of her sisters decided to give her their point, which maybe that could have happened. Who knows? But well, actually, I guess it would have happened because Millennium Station. But
I did think what would have been if they were all like collectively like, I'm just going to throw my point over to Phoenix.
Yeah, and then she ends up in the. I would have gagged.
Gag.
Hilarious. Now in terms of like the looks, they were okay. Mm-hmm. I really wanted her to recreate the prison honey moment.
Prison honey.
That's what I really wanted. I wanted the wigs with the icy blonde tips in there, and that is what I feel like would have really just sent this over the edge for me personally.
Yeah.
But I thought, I can definitely see it in the paint job for sure. Mm-hmm. This is definitely a queen that has been painting for a long time. So, she's going to know what the angles are on anyone's face if she wants them to look like her. So I got it. Now, in terms of like the execution of the dance and everything and the songs, I like the lyrics. I thought they were nice. But it did feel just a little like, I want a little bit more, Phoenix, just a little bit more. And I hate to say that about the older queen. I hate that.
No, but it's valid. Yeah. I definitely felt like as I watched, I couldn't take my eyes off of her daughter, who I know is Hunter. Yes, Hunter, who's the sister of Maya. So they are the two sisters. And I felt like Hunter looked beautiful. But I felt like Phoenix looked a little busted. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a little bit of a different canvas, I know, but
busted bitch.
No.
You busted ass bitch.
That said, I do feel like they were both just like very nervous, very stiff,
Yeah.
very like Hunter.
I felt like there was a lot of pressure on Hunter because she knew the
Yeah.
position that Phoenix was in, and I feel so bad for all of the contestants or the people
Yeah.
that come to be with the contestants. I feel a little less bad when it's family because it's like, okay, your family, you know, they're gonna love you no matter what. But like when you have like a stranger that's coming in, that stranger's like, oh fuck, like what am I walking in? Like you gotta
Yeah.
like, how far along behind are you? Like they put so much pressure. So I feel bad in that regard.
I actually genuinely think that Hunter kind of looks a little bit like India Farah. Like in that season 3, like in the paint. I was actually, because let's not get it twisted. For
Prison,
all
honey.
of prison, honey. For all of those, for anything that you can say about India Farah, the bitch can paint, okay, and she always could.
Yeah.
And I felt like Phoenix did a really good job. I know they were going for family resemblance, but she was also trying to recreate that Hunter is going to be India. And I thought she did a really good job with that. I thought that Hunter, when they came out on the runway, I loved that they did like the prison honey orange jumpsuits into this reveal. And then when they walked down the runway, I felt like Phoenix was the one that didn't have as much of the swagger in her walk, but Hunter did. And I felt like there was a performance of like, oh, I'm angry that they were wearing the same thing that Hunter had that was really great. Upon the second viewing, I was like, oh, that's not anger. That's pure nerves that Hunter has. But I was so frankly, and I hate to say it, I was so unimpressed with the energy that Phoenix was giving that I just couldn't help but look at Hunter the entire time. And in their performance, I generally just kind of felt like they were going through the motions and looking at each other to make sure they were in tune and in step. I like the look a lot. I especially love Hunter's look. I think that Hunter looks really cool. I kind of wish that those pattern tights had been on Phoenix's arms as gloves, because that would have been a nice little tie-in and would have given her a little more dimension and texture to her look. I desperately hate her shoes, Phoenix's, because and this is going to be so awful of me, but I'm just going to put it out there. Look at how white them feet are compared to her arms, her chest, and her face.
Yeah.
Like that does not match. And my feet will tan more than my body will, because I normally wear like sandals and such. But if I'm doing something that all that is being shown for skin, there's a big difference, and like the lights of the stage are going to amplify that, especially when you look over at your other partner and she has one skin tone from head to toe. And so I just felt like she was missing something, some other texture or something. And I just felt like that was really glaring. I felt like her makeup for herself was a little off, unfortunately. I think that she did a great job painting Hunter, but I just think that she was unfortunately. Oh my God, I forgot. Also, why are we naming her Heron? Heron? Heron is not a mythical bird. So if you're going to go for a bird theme, why could we could do, I would have preferred Griffin over Heron or something like that, right? So I was like, Heron?
Yeah, it was
a choice.
It was a letdown for sure. It wasn't giving. It wasn't completing the fantasy for me.
That said, love that Phoenix said, I'm known for one thing in the Drag Race community, and just like soak it up with the sponges or Brown Cow Stunning or any one thing that people came on and just beat a dead horse with. She comes back 15 years later and makes an iconic reference with this. And I want to uplift her for that, because I thought that that was a really good concept. I just think it could have been stronger, and there could have been a little bit more confidence in the execution.
Right. I think that the reliving of it all could have been just a bit stronger, but that's okay.
Aman, if you were in Phoenix's position, where in the final voting ends up you are the tiebreaker, or you could have thrown your vote to someone like Bosco or Irene, would you have made RuPaul made this decision, or would you have been as happy like she did to put a vote on somebody?
I think I would have wanted really bad for the gag of it to make RuPaul make the decision, but I think I would have feared a little bit of the wrath of the fans. But I also think that I would have, like, just knowing the person that I am, I would have felt like I was like really depriving a sister of an experience. So I'd just been like, all right, I'll give it to, let me go ahead and give it to Aja because, I know
At
she
least the
really
bitch won
wants it.
something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I generally was trying to think about it, and I was like, okay, because this is me being a Leo. I was like, okay, what part of this would make me have a little bit more of an impact on this episode in this season? Am I going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe she made RuPaul break the tie? Or, oh my God, I can't believe she's the one who put her vote on this person. Regardless, I think that's kind of a unique position to be in. And so
Yeah.
I'm interested. I hope that we all continue to follow Phoenix clearly. And if I'm ever in Atlanta, I know I want to check out a show of hers. That's for sure.
For sure.
So,
oh, for sure.
And hopefully she travels so that we don't have to just go to Atlanta.
Atlanta, honey.
Prison, honey. That was not me saying that Atlanta was prison. That is not what I was saying there. Let us move on to the last couple here. We have Aja and Teja, I think was what they went with. And they are pastel Banji fairies, I think is what basically Aja said they were going for. I loved this concept. I thought this was cute. I do understand the cheap costumey idea that Michelle was going for, but I lived for Aja going, drag is a costume. I love it. Do you love it? She loves it. We all love it. Yay! Aja has been slaying me this season in confessionals and with the judges.
I'm so glad that Aja's back. Like I think I've really locked it in at this point. I think I would really appreciate to see her take this whole thing home. I'm so glad that she is going to be moving on to the next round. Yeah, I loved that moment too because on one hand, yes, I think we all understand what Michelle is saying, the costuming critique, because you do want things to appear as if there is some level of care behind them, and costuming doesn't necessarily mean that drag is not a costume, because it very much is in a lot of ways. I think it just means you want it to appear elevated, like there's time put into it, and that it's not just something that you can just buy.
Right
now, obviously, all these drag queens are buying a lot of their looks, but they're buying like things that are very much obviously handmade, tailored. There's like love in the garment, right? And it's not to say that these don't have that. I'm sure that they do, but is it like as distinct, I think, as what Michelle was trying to go for? No, not necessarily. But in the same breath, I like the fact that Aja sort of like clocked that, because I do think that maybe Michelle can start to be a little bit more specific with some of these critiques, because a long critique of Michelle's and a lot of these judges is that y'all have been saying the same things for anything. It just feels like you don't like something, you've made up your mind, and so you pull up your Rolodex of negative critique buzzwords, and costumey is one of them. And I was just like, okay, well, it is a costume. Yay!
But I also think that that's so in line with what we've heard for Aja in these past couple of episodes of why she feels so much more confident to be silly and those kind of things, because she is finally able to say, this is what drag is and this is what my identity is. And so being able to celebrate that, yeah, I'm not wearing this as a woman in my day-to-day life. This is a costume. Yay! I love that. And speaking of queens buying things, my God, Aja bought the shit out of the white boots this season. I think she's worn those white boots in all 3 episodes, whether it's for lip syncing or whatever. But and I love that she has 2 pairs. But that said, I kind of wish instead of the tall above the thigh white leather boots, I wish that there was some way, and God, I know you can't really plan this for a makeover challenge, so just bear with me in terms of just something here. I would have loved a like nod to, like, if you're going to do fairy, right? And you want to bring this kind of like almost Banji aesthetic or whatever to it. You want to bring this pastel idea, whatever. I wish that there was a boot similar to what we kind of saw with Brooklyn Heights, but Brooklyn Heights literally did ballet, but made it look like an illusion of a ballet slipper with like an invisible heel on the back, where it ties up a little bit, like going up the knee and goes up that way. So it is a boot, but it looks more like a really tall ballet slipper with like that invisible heel in the back, so to make it so that you're not actually on toe point. That would have looked so cool, and I think would have completed an outfit like this to be like, yeah, we're costumey, but we're also going for this idea of like fairies in ballet or a dance
Right.
or something like that, that makes sense to be a little bit more costumey, if that makes,
Yeah.
That said, I thought the two of them were cute. I thought the two of them in their performance were so confident and
Mm-hmm.
willing to, give it. And it was just so, so good. I love that Aja was like, I'm going to do splits. I'm going to be rolling around on the ground and you just sit there and point and look pretty and
Yes.
be confident. That's how you do it, so that your partner doesn't steal the focus, but that you
Mm-hmm.
also are helping your partner to feel comfortable that they don't have to do all this crazy
All the bullshit.
choreography.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She was getting nervous about that, especially just the lyrics alone. She's like, "This is a lot of talking. This is a lot of rapping. Like, I'm a
Ooh.
little worried about that."
Yeah, they had a lot of words, that's for
Yeah.
sure. They both spit some lyrics out. That
Yeah.
said, I
Yeah.
don't think I really understood either of them. Like I just heard like and I was like, oh
Right.
yeah, work. But for me, that's just sometimes a me thing, because I don't know if it's an ADHD thing or whatever. I don't hear words half the time. I just like the vibe. So, and I felt like the
Mm-hmm.
vibe and the attitude was there, and I was like, get it. So that concludes the looks and the the for the challenge and everything. What we end up having is Irene and Bosco being in the top two. Did you agree with the top two this week?
I mean, I'm sort of more partial to Aja's presentation than I was Bosco, so I feel like
Mm.
I probably would have done Aja and Irene again, not necessarily Bosco. But yeah, fine. It wasn't like too much of a gap for me that I'm too upset about it. So it
Yeah.
was whatever.
I really struggle. I think Irene was so clearly the best one,
Hmm.
all the way around. I really struggled because I felt like Deja and Sophia had like the best energy, performance, attitude, everything. But I just felt like the look was so weak that I couldn't justify putting them in the top two.
Hmm.
I felt like Aja, the look wasn't as strong as Bosco's,
Yeah.
but the performance was stronger. And I
Right.
felt like Bosco had a stronger look and had a good performance. So I think it just makes sense. Why not give it to Bosco? But I literally, if Deja, Aja, or Bosco had been in the top two, I would have been fine with them, any of
Yeah.
them.
I can't be
So
too mad about it for sure.
I do kind of wish that the producers had been like, let's really make them do drag math. Let's throw Deja into the top two. Okay, that changes the game a lot, because
Oh
do you
yeah.
think people are going to give their points to Bosco in that situation over Deja? Do you think that Aja gets more points? Do you think Olivia gets more points? So I think it would have been, because Deja's no longer going to be voting in that situation. Bosco is. So I could absolutely see a world where, all of a sudden Phoenix is going to give her point to Bosco for sure in that situation, right? So I don't know. I just think that there could have been some more interesting drama there. But
How do we feel about this twist where it's like, and am I understanding it correctly? And that the judges will get to decide a queen that they want to still have a chance from each bracket. And am I to understand that those queens that then get selected by a random draw, or the queen that gets selected by a random draw of the three brackets, automatically just skips to the finale?
that's how I understand it. And what I understood for the queen, and so this is the slight difference in my understanding with you, is I don't even know if it has to be from all the brackets. I think all of the regular judges, and I don't know if it includes RuPaul or not. So T.S. Madison, Michelle Visage, Carson Kressley, Ross Matthews, I think Law Roach. I think all of them each choose a queen who's been technically knocked out. Doesn't matter which bracket they're in. and then they all get put into a random drawing, and then one of those queens will randomly be drawn to just go to the lip sync Lollapalooza
That is so
finale.
stupid. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. At the very
I agree.
least, why don't you just round out the main cast, making it 10? And then at the end of
Thank
the
you.
brackets elimination, then you choose one queen that you want to see in the final 10. Why make them
Or
skip the finale? Because then they're not competing throughout All Stars. Everyone is going to be looking at them as an illegitimate contestant. It's stupid.
I think it should have been a queen randomly selected to be in the top 10 for the semifinals, because then it's an even number. And then it's whatever the top is from there, right? Cut it down to 4, 3, whatever you're going to do, but make the cast 10. Don't make it like, oh, okay, you move on to the semifinals. Technically, these people didn't get anywhere near as points as you did throughout any of the part of the competition. So they get to miss how many episodes, 1 or 2 or whatever. Like, that doesn't seem inherently fair.
Production, y'all are some idiotic hoes, and I said that shit.
That's right. I do like the format in a way, because I think it's fresh and different, and I'm excited to see, I do think that this calls for more strategy in that I like seeing in an all-star season. But I was like, what kind of bullshit is this?
I was like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. I hate it.
I don't know. Do we need that? Like, why not just have all the eliminated queens do their own title like you've done a couple of times? Have them do their own lip sync Lollapalooza thing. Because at that point, then you have 9 queens that go forward for the crown, 9 queens that go for the crown of she done already done had herses or whatever
There's just no intrigue with it, because we know that person isn't going to win. You're not going to crown the winner of All Stars 10, mind you. This is a anniversary season of the franchise. You're not going to crown that person that wasn't there the whole time. That doesn't make any sense.
Can you imagine somebody like they choose? I'm going to put it out there. I don't think Phoenix has a chance, right? But say that like Olivia makes it, right? If Olivia wins the season, because she deserves it after all the lip syncs and everything, which we know the Lollapalooza lip syncs in the end of all of these seasons, when it comes to the final lip sync, it don't mean shit if there's a clear front runner and that front runner manages to be okay, right? As long as they don't flop, right, in that last lip sync. You think that Olivia, for example, is going to be able to come and beat Ginger Minj, Mistress, Aja, Bosco, Irene, any of these people? I really like what? It makes no sense from, like you said, a suspense point of view or anything else.
It's so silly. But Drag Race gonna drag itself.
That is a fact. All right. So next week we have the beginning of bracket 2, the pink bracket. I'm excited to talk about 6 new queens and see how they all interact. I think it is very clear to see that as much as this cast or this bracket got along for the most part, I think we're going to end up with some drama mama in the next episode. We already see some teasings of Tina versus Mistress, which I am here for. I cannot wait for Friday to watch it. Aman, any other thoughts before we go into the second bracket about bracket 1, or any thoughts about bracket 2 that you're excited about?
I'm also excited for the return of Mistress and whatever's she's got brewing up with Tina. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what Carrie Colby does with her second time around, because I really feel like Carrie, she was cute and all, and has the legacy of being the daughter of Sasha, but I did feel like 14 was kind of just like whatever for her. So I'm hoping that she sort of like brings a level of intensity to this second chance in the competition, so that we can see a bit more from her. But I mean, I'm already slotting. I don't know about Tina yet. I would love to see I can slot Tina to be making it, but I already know for a fact that Mistress is going to make it to
that's a good, let's make our predictions. Okay, so who do you think are the 3 that are going to move forward? As a reminder, the queens are Mistress Isabel Brooks, Tina Burner, Georges, Carrie Colby, Lydia, and somebody else. Oh, Nicole Paige Brooks.
I think that a lock for me is definitely Mistress.
Mm-hmm.
Georges is interesting because she has the advantage of being one of Rue's favorites, but she also was just here. And so I'm like, are they going to make us sit through another however many episodes of Georges? I mean, they brought her back, so I don't see why not. So that one, Georges feels more likely than not.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that I can see that I'm not entirely sure about at all are Lydia. I think that Lydia's great. I just don't know if she is going to have enough juice, especially since it's such a quick turnaround for her. Like she literally had what? She literally took a plane. She took a plane back to Pittsburgh, saw one bridge, and then went back to LA. like,
yeah.
So I think that she probably. I don't think she's going to make it through, unfortunately. So that leaves Nicole, Carrie, and Tina. I would say out of those three, I'm gonna say that maybe I see it the most for Nicole Paige Brooks.
Wow. I do not. I think that Nicole for me is like the clear. I don't think I will be shocked in a good way if Nicole comes out of nowhere and just like, I just think that I think that RuPaul has a favoritism with Georges, so I think that Mistress and Georges are kind of locked for two of the three spots. I think Lydia has favoritism from RuPaul. I think RuPaul really likes Lydia a lot, and I love Lydia too, but I agree with you that I feel like it is such a short turnaround time. It will be such a gag for these queens because none of them will have seen her on Drag Race before. Yeah. So I love that aspect. It's like Russell Hantz coming back for the Heroes versus Villains, and nobody knew him because Samoa hadn't aired yet, But I think Carrie has a lot of potential to do that third spot if she comes in and is less about being Sasha Colby's daughter and more about being her genuine self. I really think that there's been a little bit of time for her to really establish an all-stars return that'll be really triumphant. I could also, I don't know if I really see Tina, unfortunately, because I do think that like Tina, Nicole, Phoenix, all of these queens that are older, I don't know how much we're going to see that is truly, I mean, Phoenix and Nicole it's been well over a decade. It's like been 15, 16 years since they've been on. So yes, it's going to be different. I get that. And it's going to be more aligned with what we see now. But I don't know if those queens from older seasons and also happen to be a little older in age typically do well coming back into what Drag Race is now. Tina has been on a more recent season, being on season 13, but I just generally feel like I don't know if I'm going to see anything different from her that we didn't see before.
Yeah.
The thing I already can see that's a little different is that she's not wearing red, white, and yellow, or red, orange and yellow, I mean, only. So thank you. Please don't be Ronald McDonald this time. And that's all I ask. Like, if there's one outfit, sure, go for it. But like, I just hope that's just not the theme that we go for this time. I don't know. I think this one to me seems like the most landslidey than any of the other brackets. But I do think that this bracket's going to be the shadiest, is going to read people to filth, and is going to be entertaining as hell. So I'm excited.
Yeah, this seems like the chaotic bunch for sure.
Yeah. You're going to have Mistress and Nicole Paige Brooks and Tina, three of them who don't give a shit and will just say whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're going to have those three. Georges, who isn't afraid to stand up for herself. She doesn't start shit, but she will not back down.
She'll get into it. She's a little feisty.
Lydia's going to be interesting. Is she going to be like a deer in headlights with these people, or is she going to be able to kind of diffuse tension a little bit because she's got kind of that personality? And then Carrie Colby, she's not somebody that I feel like is going to start drama, but she won't put up with bullshit either, I don't think. So I really think that in terms of the brackets, this is the one I'm most excited for confessionals and workroom / untucked drama.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. It's so crazy because I feel like were like a part of the casting process of Drag Race this season. It's crazy.
Well, when you have like nearly 20 queens, it is kind of.
It's
It
like the
feels like
casting episode of America's Next Top Model. It was the first
Oh,
episode of each season.
yes. That was always like one of my favorite things.
I
always loved it.
know. I had such a guilty pleasure because sometimes like it sucks to watch some people like get their dreams crushed, but sometimes it's just such great TV.
Or
for
like
watching.
American Idol and like the first rounds where you'd get people who were like, what the
They
fuck?
would get
The
so
thing
pissed
is,
off. They'd be like, I have to go back to work now because someone have to work for a living. I'm like, girl, you were just talking about how you was about to be the next American Idol. Like, what's going
like,
on?
well, whatever. I guess I gotta go like, be a waitress again or whatever. No, I mean, the nice thing about this is clearly these are all professional drag queens who are already doing this and you can already watch them and none of them are going to be awful. And that's the key. But all right. So if you would like to catch up with us next week, make sure that you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you find podcasts. You can also check out any of our past episodes by going to We Love Reality TV, or realitytv.com/drag race. Aman, what are you up to and where can people find you?
You can follow me everywhere at Adwin. Obviously, you can find me here covering RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 10. And you can find me over at the Diary Room with Matt Lagori, where we have been trying to determine the best Big Brother player of all time. Bracket style, 6 players enter 1 episode and 3 will survive. We're nailing it down until we get to the 1. It's going to take a long, long time. So you have plenty of time to check us out over there, wherever you get your podcast. And I believe that is it for me.
Awesome. And you can catch me here talking about All Stars 10 with Aman. And you can catch me on social media at Beth-Dixon on Blue Sky or at AugustaWind11 on Instagram. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes at RHAP for helping us out getting this podcast into your ears and in front of your eyes. And we will be back next week to talk about episode 4, the first episode of Bracket 2, the Pink Bracket. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.